Hello everybody and welcome to today's session, Canva for Heritage Organisations. It is wonderful to see so many of you today and I hope you are all well. My name is Gemma and I am from the XpoNorth Digital team. XpoNorth Digital is Highlands and Islands Enterprises mechanism for specialist digital support for the creative and heritage economies across the Highlands and Islands region, and the project is delivered by Ironworks Venue. This workshop is part of HIE's Northern Innovation Hub, designed to build on and accelerate business innovation. It is funded through the Inverness and Highland City Region deal, a joint initiative supported by £315 million of investment from the UK and Scottish governments, Highland Council, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, and UHI. I am now going to pass over to Nicola Henderson, who is our incredible heritage specialist from the XpoNorth Digital team.
Thank you, Gemma, and thank you for saying all of that and getting that, all the technical wording correct and out of the way so that I don't try and mix it all up. Good to see you all here today, as Gemma said, and I think I know many people in the room today. I'm Nicola Henderson, and I work as the Heritage Specialist for XpoNorth. My role is to support museums and heritage organisations of all sizes to explore how digital can help them streamline their business, look at ways they could interpret their collections and stories in new ways, help them reach out to new audiences around the world. So if I can help you with anything, please do reach out. I'd love to have a chat with you. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Freya Samuel, who will be leading this workshop on using Canva in your organisations. Freya formerly worked as the digital curator at the Highlanders Museum and now works on a variety of freelance projects, including as the digital content creator for our Smartify project. Just before I hand over to Freya, just a few thoughts on how we'll handle questions today. We're covering quite a lot to give you an overview of how Canva can work and all the different tools that you can use it for. So we're going to take most of our questions at the end. However, we will take a brief pause in the middle in case there's any kind of burning issues so that we don't get too far away from any of those questions. But feel free to pop anything in the chat as well or make a note as we go through today's session. And I think without further ado, I'll hand over to Freya.
Thank you very much. So to kick off, I will just start sharing my screen. And if somebody could shout and let me know if you can hear this, see this rather, that would be great because now I can't see anyone.
All working well, Freya. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So yeah, hi everyone. My name's Freya. This is my very first presentation on using Canva for heritage organisations, and thank you very much to XpoNorth for inviting me to deliver this today. So Nicola has introduced me, but just to reiterate, my name's Freya and I'm a museum freelancer. I've worked with, I think, lots of you who are here on the call today in lots of different heritage museum spaces across the Highlands. But I do a lot of freelance work, working with Smartify at the moment as well, which is very exciting. Throughout all of my roles in the heritage sector, I've always used Canva. And I'm a bit of a Canva advocate. I think it's a fantastic tool. It's available for free. And I've found that it has so many useful, diverse applications across the sector. And today, hopefully, we will be able to get to grips with a few of them so that you're feeling comfortable and ready to use Canva. So, quick outline of the session for today. We'll kick off talking a little bit about what Canva actually is, what is the platform and what can you do with it. And then we're going to look at creating two different templates. So I've got two examples of things that we're going to be creating, and we will dive into Canva together to actually have a look at how we put those together using some of Canva's lovely user-friendly templates and adaptable elements. We're going to have a break around 3 o'clock, and there will be time, hopefully, for a couple of sprinkling of questions around the break. Although, depending on how we're going with time, do keep a note of your questions because there'll be definitely some time at the end. After that, we're going to be having a look around image editing. So starting with the very basics, uploading your own images, editing them aesthetically, and then doing a little bit of AI image editing as well. That is one of the pro features, but I'll talk a bit more about that later. And another pro feature that we will be looking at is developing a brand kit, which can be really useful for your organization's brand identity and making it absolutely seamless when you're using Canva to personalize things to your organization's brand. And then, yeah, a bit of time for questions at the end. So the aim of this session is just basically to give you an intro to Canva. It's designed for people who have maybe opened Canva before, maybe had a little bit of a mess around, or have never even seen Canva. So going right back to basics, and hopefully we will get you feeling confident and comfortable using Canva to create designs for your organization. So without further ado, what is Canva? So Canva you can think of as Photoshop for everyone. It is an enormously user-friendly and accessible platform that requires very little graphic design skill or creativity. It's all there for you, and you can lean as much on templates and pre-made designs as you want, but it's also a very versatile and adaptable program. So if you do have plenty of creativity, you can create pretty much anything in terms of digital and print media through Canva. On the left-hand side there, you will see some very few examples, because there are so many, of Canva's different uses. So we've got a bit of image editing, we've got logo design, social media posts, again, that you can use for literally anything, as well as posters, editorials, and even video editing. That is the latter not being something we will look at today, but just to give you an idea of its capabilities. It really is huge, and hopefully some of the examples we'll look through today will be directly applicable to you and your organizations. Canva has what's called a free media licensing agreement. So you might be thinking, oh wow, Canva's got all of these images and graphics that you can just use. There are, of course, a couple of restrictions with regards to selling items using these, and a little bit around using stock image and videos that are embedded within Canva as well. If you're very interested in licensing, you can scan the QR code and there is a video to explain a little bit more in depth about Canva's licensing agreements. But for general purposes, I wouldn't worry too much about Canva and its licensing, because it is fine to use their graphics and their images on things like posters, social media posts, editing your own images, and so on. Basically, the main issue is creating merchandise that you're going to sell. So generally, I would avoid that area. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but it would be worth a little bit more of a look into licensing if that's something you're looking to do. Canva has free plans and paid plans. So it's fantastic that Canva is free for absolutely anybody to use. The free access to Canva means that you can access quite a lot of Canva's features. You can use it in a very basic sense. You can use some of the images, some of the graphics, some of the presets, stock media. But Canva Pro would really take things to the next level. So Canva Pro means you have access to absolutely everything. All of it, I can't even begin to explain how many features there are that you get access to with Pro. But I would highly recommend using a Pro account. Through the session today, we will be starting off with using Canva as a free service, and we'll be having a look at just a sprinkling of fancy features in the Pro account at the very end. However, as a general overview, Canva Pro is about £100 a year. Although if your organisation is a registered charity, you can apply to Canva for free. And it's worth noting that it's super easy to do. You basically just have to input your charity number and one other detail, I think one or two other details, and they give you access to Canva Pro for free. So if you're a charity, definitely go ahead and do that. So that hopefully gives you a bit of an idea of what Canva is. And now it's time to actually get creating. I'm going to walk through a few of the examples. So first thing that we're going to be creating this afternoon is this lovely social media post. So this uses a template from Canva, and we're going to be looking at customizing colours, text, image, and using some of their lovely graphic elements as well. After that, we're going to look at using Canva basics. So using text, using elements like this graphic design, using backgrounds, colours, and editing fonts, all these sorts of things to create this lovely International Museums Day poster. And then after the break, we're going to look at image editing. This here is an example of pro image editing using AI to remove the background, but we'll be looking at the very basics of image editing as well. And we will finally be developing and using a brand kit. Brand kits are fantastic to take your museum's brand identity and use it across anything within Canva really quickly and really easily. So we'll be using a presentation as an example to create that. So without further ado, we are going to jump into Canva. So I will leave this presentation, opening Canva. If somebody can give me a shout that they can see Canva, that would be brilliant.
Yep, that's worked.
Fabulous. So everybody, welcome to Canva. If you have never opened it before, this is what it looks like. It is hopefully a very user-friendly dashboard, but I'll just do a little summary about what we're looking at before we get designing. So everything on the Canva homepage is designed to get you creating. It's basically lots and lots of different shortcuts to starting to create whatever it is that you want to create. So the first thing you're probably going to see is this section across the middle where you've got a presentation, a poster, an Instagram post, an Instagram story, all of these good things. And if you open these up, it will give you a blank template that is sized appropriately for what you're trying to create. You'll be able to see recent designs across the bottom of the screen. And there are lots of different ways that you can start designing. So with this search bar in the middle, you can type in basically any type of design that you want to create. And it is very likely that Canva will have a preset of that size. So for example, if you wanted to create a thumbnail for a YouTube video, you could type in YouTube and you've got, there you go, YouTube thumbnail as a suggestion. If you open that up, it will give you a blank page and you can start creating that in exactly the right size for YouTube. So it's really compatible. And if there is anyone on the call today who does have any experience with things like the Adobe Suite, one of the most complicated aspects of that is creating your design to be the right size and to be adaptable to the right size. So the fantastic thing about Canva is that all of these designs, whether it's an Instagram post or a mobile video, they're designed to be the exact right shape and you just simply export it. There is nothing more that you have to do. So I will have a quick look down the left-hand side as well. Obviously, this is a free account, so it's asking you to try Canva Pro. You can click into projects. This is where you can organize all of your designs into folders and different things like that. You can launch straight into templates. So if you just want to have a browse of the different things that you can create, you've got all of these examples just here. And then you've got brand. We'll come back to that later, and we are not going to worry about apps today. So to kick us off, we're going to start by designing that lovely social media post for, I think it was for World Heritage Day. So the first thing we're going to do is click in this top right here, create a design. And then we're going to select Instagram post square. It tells you that the size of this design is 1080 by 1080 pixels. You don't need to worry too much about that, but that is the standard size of an Instagram design. So this is what it looks like once you've opened up a Canva template, a Canva design. So this is blank. It looks a little bit scary, but fear not. We're going to be adjusting a template today. So down the left-hand side, you've got design here, and all of the templates that fit this square design are in the side here. So you can take a scroll, see what you fancy, and all of these designs here on the left are totally customizable. So just to give you a little taster, a little scroll, we've got lots that have got video features. Oh, and by the way, that's a good point. If it's got this little crown, that means you can only use that with your Pro account. If it doesn't have the crown, then it's free to use in the free version of Canva. So handily, I've got this recently used template here, which we're going to be editing today. So hopefully you can make a visual link between the social media post that I showed you on the presentation and this. Like I say, it is totally customizable. So let's get started in making this template into something that we want it to be for our organization. So the first thing that I'm going to do is change the colours. So this red colour here, let's say that's not the colour of my organisation, and I'd like to change it across the board. So selecting the background colour up here, we've got all of the different colours that are already within that, so we can pick something tonal, or we've got default colours. You can also use this rainbow icon here and select colours that you might have already on your screen. So if you've got a photo somewhere and you want to draw a colour out from that, you can use this colour dropping tool. In fact, I can show you how that works. So if I wanted to use, it gives you this pixelated square. If I wanted to use this nice dark blue, you can pick it up and it pulls that colour out and puts it over the background. So just to keep things easy, I think we're going to go with a dark blue. And Canva handily brings up this change all button as well. So everywhere that dark red or dusty red colour is, we can click change all and it will draw through that colour. So like I said, everything is really customizable here. So we're going to start now with the text. So World Art Day. This is World Heritage Day. So nice and easy. We just change the text. It's dropped onto 2 lines, so we can extend the text box. Works a little bit like some of the Microsoft suite in that sense. So just dragging the text box to make the text fit. I'm going to be pernickety just because I think World Heritage Day is the 18th, so I'll change that. And I might be totally wrong, but we'll just go from there. So changing the text, you can also change, of course, the fonts. So again, this is much like using something like Microsoft. You select your font and you have got endless amounts of fonts to choose from. They are alphabetically ordered, but one of the nice features is if you don't know quite what you're looking for and you can't be bothered to browse through every single one of Canva's fonts, you can say, I know I want it to look like handwriting, if we spell handwriting correctly. And it will bring up the results that it thinks are handwriting style. And you can choose from any of these. Again, the little crown is indicating that it's a pro font, but I'm going to take it back to something a little bit more simple. Let's go with that one. Again, making it fit, dragging the corners here to resize text. And actually, whilst we're here, one of the nice things about Canva is these purple lines that keep popping up everywhere. So if I want to make sure that this World Heritage Day is in the middle of my post, I'm going to be looking out for that solid pink line that goes all the way down the middle. That is how I know that the element is perfectly aligned. And you get these lines all the way around. They help you to find corners, help you to find the right kind of angles, and the numbers that appear as well. They show you the spacing between elements. So you've got 21 pixels between that piece of text and the piece of text below it. And at the bottom of the screen, you've got 21 pixels between that box and the text there. So it keeps things looking even. But if you don't want to move things around, leave the text where it is and they will naturally be nice and centered and ready to use. I'm going to change the color of that World Heritage Day text as well, just by going into that colorful A and choosing any color from down the side there. So the next thing I'm going to do is, I think this sort of background squiggle makes it look a little bit messy. I don't really like it. So all you have to do is select that squiggle and click delete. Takes it away. It's all totally customizable. Another thing that I might want to change could be these slightly strange looking slimy blobs. Maybe they're not for you. So again, we can click them, delete them. So click them, it brings up the highlighted purple line. That's how you know it's been selected, and delete. But now it's looking a little plain. So what we're going to do is explore some of Canva's elements. So heading over to the left-hand side of the screen, you've got this section here called elements, and there are absolutely tons of things in elements. Just to have a quick browse of the kind of things that are available, you've got shapes. If you wanted to add any basic shape, a square, a circle, a triangle, lines, all of that stuff, you'll find it within elements. You've got graphics. This is what we're going to use in a moment. You can also generate images with AI. It's a bit complicated. We're not going to look into that today. And it's a bit hit and miss, but such is the nature of AI. Stickers, these are a little bit like GIFs. They're moving images, can be quite nice. Photos, Canva has got a massive bank of photos. I'm not quite sure why it's bringing up 3 photos of plain white paper. That's very dull. They have got a huge sort of bank of stock images that you can use. Sometimes they're really appropriate for whatever you want, sort of like nature backgrounds, really quality photography. And generally speaking, you're fine to use any of those photos. Exactly the same thing with video. You can even add Canva's own audio. Charts are kind of interesting. We'll come back to that later in the presentation, as well as frames. I don't think I'm going to go into frames right now, but do feel free to have a click around when you're in Canva and just play with things, see how they work, see what works for you, and don't be afraid to break it because you can't. So just having a mess around. And at the bottom there, we've got collections of different styles of graphic. So we're going to go back up to graphics and have a little browse at something to make this social media post a little bit more exciting. So I think, well, magic recommendations, that's drawing off what's already on the post and what it thinks you might like. So that's quite nice to have a look through. You've got this sort of cartoony style, heritage-based illustrations. These work quite nicely. If you wanted to use any of them, you just click them and it drops them straight into the post. Just to make that post that I showed you as the example, I'm going to see if I can put in a nice Greek style column. There it is. So because this doesn't have the crown in the bottom right, you can tell that it's a free element. We click it and it pops up inside our design. So again, it is customizable. You can drag the corner, make it bigger, making it look pretty fancy. And I'm going to drop it there, making sure that it's nice and lined up. So you can see the pink line just about comes up along the bottom. That shows you that the picture is perfectly in line with the bottom of the design. And because our original design has 2 columns, I'm going to click. You have to use a lot of keyboard shortcuts in Canva. You can do a right click, copy and paste, but it will always encourage you to use keyboard shortcuts. So on a Windows, that's a Control-C and Control-V to paste. And I'm going to move that column over to the right, making it look a little bit more exciting. We can also update this text. So it's World Heritage Day. Obviously, we might want to say free entry, for example. And you get the idea. With editing text, you can update your own website or a little bit more text, or if you don't want it, just hit delete. And the next thing we're going to do is images. Oh, this is why I didn't go for frames, because this is a frame. So we don't want to use this image. It's a lovely picture, but it's not relevant. So this is what's called a frame. It's a square and you drop images into it and they fit into the square perfectly. So it doesn't matter what shape your photo is. It works really nicely. So we can't, if we just hit delete, we'll delete the whole of the frame. So what we're going to do is right click and then we're going to detach the image, and then that will be able to show you what the frame is. So this is our image. I'm going to just drag it to one side and delete it. And we're left with a Canva frame. I'm going to show you now how to upload an image that we can then use in the middle of this post. So you might have guessed, we go to uploads on the left-hand side. And I'm going to open up my desktop. In fact, no, let's do it properly. I'll click upload files. And there it brings up your desktop and you can select any photo there that you would like to bring into Canva. I'm going to select this lovely image of Gerloch Museum. Select open, and that brings your image through into Canva. Clicking that image brings it into the design. And to make that photo fit into the middle of the square, we're basically just going to pick up the photo, we're going to drag it, and we're going to drop it. And there it is, dropped neatly into that square. So that is dealing with frames, editing text, using graphic elements and changing colors. And then we have got a personalized slightly more streamlined version of the original design that we started with, which was, just to show you as a comparator, that one. So we've gone from that World Art Day post to this nice blue World Heritage Day post. So I will stay here, but I think I've got a few minutes. If there's any questions directly relating to that, I reckon we've got time for a question or two before I move on to the next example. As I can't see anyone, either Nicola, do you want to shout people through if they've got a raised hand, or you could just unmute yourself if everyone's happy with that?
Yeah, I can keep an eye. If anybody's got any questions, if you want to pop your hand up.
Brilliant. If there's no questions,
Yeah,
means
no, I can't see any at the moment.
excellent. Okay, good stuff. So that was oh no, that's what I'll do next, is how do you get this out of Canva and into your social media? Excellent. So when you're finished and you're happy with your post, I'll just delete that page there. You want to give your post your file a title. So it's automatically called it World Heritage Day because that was the piece of text that I typed in. I just want to call it World Heritage Day post. And then we're going to download this as an image. So there are a few different ways that you can do this. We're going to go to the top right of the screen and click share. One way to do it is to link up Instagram directly with Canva. If you click through that, you can log into your Instagram. You have to accept various different permissions, but you can schedule using Pro and basically post straight to your social media post pages from Canva, which is pretty handy. But if you just wanted to grab this as an ordinary image, we'll click download. And there's a couple of different file types, so nothing too strenuous. You can keep it as a PNG. PNGs are nice, high quality file types. They keep images looking very crisp and very clean. The only other one that would be relevant for today is changing it to a JPEG. So that's really up to you. If you're not fussed about files, just leave it with a PNG. You can see there's a couple of pro options for file downloading here. We'll come back to those when we do a little bit of image editing. But then all you do is hit download, and that finds its way into your desktop as your World Heritage Day post, ready for you to use on social media or however you would like to use it. So hopefully that is clear. To get back to Canva's dashboard, Canva's home screen, we're going to open the menu and just click home. So now you can see, that's a bit confusing because it's in there twice. Now you can see the World Heritage Day post that we just made has come into recent designs. So if you wanted to go back in and edit it, you just click straight through here and that should be easy peasy. So for our next example, we're going to be looking at creating a poster. So again, going to the top right of the screen. And I know that I want to create a poster, so I'll have a little browse and it does come up as an example there, but it's also saying that it's a very large portrait poster. If I know that I wanted to create an A4 poster, you can just go ahead and type in A4 document portrait and we can go with that. So either using that or using the preset version of poster. Lots of different options, but essentially it gives you a blank page. So pretty scary looking blank page. Try not to worry too much about it because what we're going to be doing is we're not using a template for this. We're just going to use some of Canva's more basic features to build our own version of the poster. So the first thing we're going to do is add in some text. So down the left-hand side, we'll hit text. We're going to need a heading. So we click heading and that drops that straight into the middle for us. So this poster is for international, typing under pressure is never good for spelling, International Museums Day. Okay, so we've got that text. That is in very basic Canva Sans font. It's a little bit gappy. It's a little bit boring. What can we do to make that more exciting? So firstly, choosing a nice font. I think we're going with, I have a preset font to make that nice. Let's go with something nice and bold. Impact, yeah, lovely. I'm going to drop that down onto 2 lines. So clicking into that text and hitting enter like you would with any text base. In fact, I'm going to go there with any program. So getting that onto nice lines. I think the middle spacing looks a little bit too wide. So we're going to go in to this icon here called spacing, very handily named spacing. And you can have a little play around with this. So this means you can spread the letters away from one another. That's letter spacing. And line spacing, as you might have guessed, brings the lines between text closer together or further away. So we want them a little bit closer together. I think that looks nice, looking good. Maybe we want to see what this looks like in all upper cases, in all capital letters. So we can click this little version here. Nice, looking bold. International Museums Day. Let's make that a little bit bigger as well, so it fills the middle of the poster. And we're going to make sure that it's centered as well. So choosing the alignment up here. I think it's dropped onto 2 lines. There we go, perfect. So International Museums Day in the middle. We're going to need a subheading. So selecting subheading. Again, we're giving it in an automatic Canva Sans text. And the slogan of International Museums Day this year, if you didn't know, is Museums, Education and Research. So again, that looks pretty boring. How can we make that more exciting? Well, we're going to select a more exciting font. We'll go with the same one that we just used. Impact, nice and bold. Make it bigger just so that you can see it. And then we're going to have a look at effects up here. So you've got your subheading selected. We're going to head up to effects, selecting that. And you've got all these different kinds of styles. They're kind of giving word art vibes, but they're much more exciting than that. So you've got a drop shadow. You've got lift. That can be quite nice if you've got a busy background. It can just really make something stand forwards. You've got hollow, which is what we're going to be using. Maybe even neon, something fun and glowing, but we're definitely not using that. So hollow. You can also change the thickness of the outline. So you can go with it really thick. You can make it really thin, barely there, but we're going to keep it in the middle at about 50 and make it all uppercase as well. So the next thing we're going to do is scroll down on this effects page and we're going to make it curved. So selecting curve, that has automatically popped our heading there into a nice arch shape. And at the very bottom of the screen, you can edit the amount of curvature on that title. So feel free to be creative, to have a good mess around with Canva. And I'm going to bring that back to a nice, fairly tight arch there, arch shape. Again, when you highlight that, you can see the whole circle, so you're aware of the angle of the curve you're working with. And those purple lines that have popped up onto the screen, they're all about alignment. So that overarching square, that's kind of like a print border. Obviously that depends. It just gives you that nice kind of even shaped gutter around the whole edge of the page. Because we're doing digital media, we don't need to worry too much about printing. So I'm going to draw it right to the edge and use these to pull that out nice and wide. Again, finding that solid line down the center so that I can be sure it is right in the middle of the page. And I think we're going to need just a little bit more text to really make this look like a proper poster. So we'll add in another subheading. And we will say 18th of April. It might well be the 18th of May, actually, International Museums Day, but I've forgotten. So we'll go with that. There we go. We'll drag that, I think, pop it in the corner. Again, choosing your font. I think as we're going all font, all the same today, we'll just keep them all looking the same. And then to save making a new piece again to put on the other side, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. We're going to select that piece of text, Control C on a Windows, Control V, pasting that over so that you've got two of those, and then you don't have to change the formatting. And we'll put free entry for the bottom there. So you can see those three lines as well. There's three horizontal lines. The dotted ones are showing us that free entry and the 18th of April 2024 are kind of exactly lined up horizontally across the page. Going to go ahead and make them all capitals as well. So if you're looking like a fairly aggressive poster, but you've got to be aggressive about International Museums Day. And that is the basis of our poster. So we've looked at fonts, uploading different types of text, effects on text, and now we're going to make it look a little bit nicer. It's very boring. So selecting the back of the page, you can hit background. And again, we can go up to this little color palette up in the corner and select a nice background color. I think my example was in a nice blue. Oh no, the example was in a photo. Oh, that's good. Let's do that. So you can choose a color, a solid color for background, whichever one you would like. Or we can do something a little bit more interesting. So we'll head back to Elements. And we're going to go down, scrolling down through Elements to Photos. Selecting See All. And you get all these lovely high quality photographs here. They're absolutely huge file types, so the quality is very, very crisp. So don't worry if you need to blow them up or shrink them down. They always look good. I think we would like something a bit colourful and a bit bright. So to search through the photos, you can type in whatever you would like. You can see what I've typed in there before. We're going to go for something abstract, something nice and bold and bright. And if you type in abstract, this is what it brings up. So a nice selection. Again, you can see which ones are pro, which ones are not. And given that it's an Arty Museums Day, we'll choose this picture. So selecting this nice picture, it's dropped it on the back. And we're going to make this the whole background very simply by you dragging the corner of the picture, expanding it all the way up and all the way across. And now we've got a lovely fun background for our International Museums Day poster. I would say now it's making it a little bit difficult to read. So what we're going to do is change the colours of all the fonts. Starting with the one in the middle, we'll select it, head up to text colour, and I think we're just going to try it in white. Yeah, that looks better. I think we'll go with white. And then we're going to click Change All, and that extends that all the way across the page. If you did want to make this a little bit more forward standing, like I mentioned earlier, try adding an effect and then having a go maybe at lift. You can just see how that just defines the text a little bit more. And it's just about bearing in mind when you're kind of using your own creativity like this to create a poster, you want it to be clean, easy to read, really get your message across, making sure that you're not doing too many crazy things all in one space, but making sure, like that little text lift there, that you're working to make it as clear as possible to read. So we're nearly there with our International Museums Day poster. I think it just needs a little bit of something else. So we've got this nice empty space, and we're going to head back into our graphic elements. So clicking to elements, scrolling down, having another little browse on graphics. And very usefully, it has dropped in a lovely picture of a bust that I think would be appropriate. So we click the, oh, it's frozen. Let's just have a little refresh. Okay, we're back. So we will head back down to graphics, selecting the bust, and that drops it into the middle of the page. It's very nice, but the colours aren't quite right because now it looks a bit lost and a bit wishy-washy in the middle of the page. So we're going to make sure that bust is positioned in the middle so you can just about see the purple lines there that show us that it's in the middle of the page there. And you'll notice this color palette along the top of the screen. So one of the really nice things with Canva graphics is that you can change pretty much all of the colors of pretty much all of the graphics. So I would like this to look a little bit more like marble. So I'm going to choose one of these colors. So the bulk of the background is this kind of orange. So we'll click into that. Brings up the color here, and I'm going to make it white. So that's half of the sculpture. I'll select the other type of orange and also make that white. And then you can also change, if you would like, the colors of the rest of the graphic as well. So maybe you want to go for just a black and white image. Yeah, I think that looks pretty smart. I think we'll leave it there. So that's the nice thing about Canva and its customizable graphics. That's standing out nicely, looks a little bit stronger, a little bit more eye-catching. And I'm pretty happy with that International Museums Day poster. So I'll just open up another page. So clicking up here on the top right-hand corner of the page means you can add another page. In fact, I can show you what these mean whilst I'm here. This is duplicate page. Obviously, that creates another one. You've got delete page and lock page. So if you've got absolutely tons of pages on the go in your Canva design and you want to make sure that you don't accidentally start deleting things on moving elements, this is locked. So now however much I grab and click, I can't do anything with that poster. It's just a kind of a feature that you might find handy. I will unlock it for now. And we'll just have another little look at editing these Canva graphics. So rather than those, let's go through recommendations. I love the way it's brought up these like heritage recommendations. So appropriate. And I didn't even do that. So let's choose this painting of the girl with the pearl earring. I don't know how they've got around that with copyright, but there you go. Well, we want to make this a really fun abstract version. So we're going to change some of the colors up here. And again, it pulls out the colors that's already being used on the page, which can be quite handy. But you've got whatever colors. Oh, wow, that's bold. So just having a play around, seeing what you can do with Canva can be very fun. That looks a bit pop art, quite pleased with that. So anyway, that's just another overview there into using some of the elements. But I should say as well, when you go back over to the left-hand side, if you didn't want to use a graphic and you wanted to use one of your own photographs in this, any photos you upload to any Canva design, they all appear within upload. So it doesn't matter what design you're in, you can always access everything you've uploaded. So there's that picture of Gairloch Museum that I uploaded earlier. And if you'd want to use that, obviously just clicking it, dropping it in, and going from there. I think as we've got just a little bit more time here, what might be nice to do as well is to have a bit more of a look at frames, because I'm aware that I sort of skimmed over frames quite quickly and they can be really useful. So I'll duplicate that page, delete that nice graphic, and we'll have one more quick look at frames. So scrolling down on elements, we'll click see all on frames. And this is a really clever feature of Canva. So sometimes a square image sort of slapped in the middle doesn't always look that interesting. Sometimes you want it to be a little bit softer, have a bit of a softer edge, maybe be in a fun shape. The blobs can be quite nice. You've got these nice frames there. You've got letters, numbers. So I think we'll have a go with this sort of paper cutout frame, because I think that sits quite nicely. So selecting which frame you would like, and then we'll go back into our uploads, bringing in our picture again of Gairloch Museum and selecting, dropping it on top. And you can see how that works. If you decided not to use it, you can right click on the element, and you can detach that image, maybe deleting that photo if you decided it wasn't right, or deleting the frame. So clicking, hitting delete, and working through it that way. So This can be nice as well, this devices section here, if you wanted for some reason to project an image of something that you'd got, maybe seeing how your logo would look if it was on an iPhone or on a laptop or on a computer screen, you can click the computer screen frame and do the same thing. So you're dragging and dropping and putting your image there into these really nice frames. And that obviously looks very random on this poster, but is quite a nice way of creating kind of mock-ups very easily. So I will get rid of that page. And we've got 5 minutes or so. So if anybody has any questions around any of those elements, anything to do with text editing, colors, changing different effects, now would be a good time to go over it, to save having that kind of delay between there and now. And I will stop sharing my screen, so bear with me. In fact,
We've got a couple of questions in the chat.
lovely.
So yeah,
Can you-
I'll come to Lucy first, and Lucy had a question, but she's also got her hand up. Yeah, Lucy.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That was really good. My question was really, if you make your Insta post, can you use that sort of basic design and then copy it into, albeit you'd have to reshape it to a poster or vice versa?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really good question. So in Canva, you can highlight everything. You can hit Control-C or whatever your shortcut for copy is, and then you can open up a whole new design in a totally different shape and paste that design in. You will have to adapt the shape. It doesn't do that automatically. So if you're taking a square from Canva, taking the design, copying that and pasting it over into an A4 poster, you can sort of adjust it within there accordingly. But yeah, it's a really good idea. You can copy and paste between different Canva designs.
Thank you. Kaz?
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, see with the frames, are you able to put like short videos or those sticker things in it, or does it just have to be a flat image?
That is an excellent question. And I'm going to share my screen again, and we can have a look at that. So I'll jump back into our poster. So let's have another little go. So we've got this nice ripped paper frame. I do quite like this one, quite useful. And the question is, can you add in those stickers? So the stickers with a moving graphic that we saw earlier, this nice one of a rabbit. All you're going to do to test this is drag and drop. And no, you can't. It's only for flat images. I think if we went into more in depth with video editing, you can create videos into this kind of thing, but you don't use frames. It gets a little bit more complicated, but basically the answer to your question is no.
Thanks, Kaz. And we had a question from Anna, a good one in the chat, about whether Canva has built-in guidance for accessibility or whether you just have to use your own judgment and professional knowledge.
That is an excellent question. And to be perfectly honest with you, there is nothing within the Canva front end, the Canva that on your dashboard when you're designing, there is no kind of guidance that will pop up and say, have you thought about making the font bigger or anything like that? So that is just a case of using your own understanding. That is not to say that Canva don't have sort of more general guidelines, but if I were you, I would do a bit of Googling around that. One of the things, if you are worried about accessibility, the templates, the pre-made designs, the ones we edited with the social media post, they are designed by graphic designers, and then Canva looks at their designs and says, yeah, we like that, we'll pop it on Canva for everybody to use. And they do go through a general kind of standard. So if it's a template on Canva, it will generally be because it is designed to a nice quality, it's usable and accessible as well in terms of its layout, font combinations, image sizes and things like that. But do have a little Google in case Canva have their own sort of advice about that, but there is nothing within the actual interface of Canva to help you out.
I'll have a look in the break because there is some design guidance out there about
Yeah.
tutorials to follow, and I'll pop some links to that, which should be useful.
Bro.
So yeah, I'll do that in the break. Are there any other questions? Well, shall we take a little break just now, Freya, and come back at 3?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Comfort break for everybody. So yeah, if everybody can be back at 3 o'clock, we'll get going again. Great. Hopefully everybody's back now. So thank you. Welcome to part 2. And so when you're ready, Freya.
Thank you very much. I am just logging into Canva Pro because we're going to be looking at some image editing in this part of the session. I'm there so I can share my screen. And again, if somebody could just shout and let me know they can see Canva here.
Yep.
Perfect. Lovely. So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming back to the second half of the session where we are looking now at Canva Pro. So this looks thankfully exactly the same as Canva Free. The main thing that's different is some of the features that we're going to be using. So we're going to be doing a little bit of image editing. You have got different ways to edit images within Canva, but to keep things nice and simple, what we're going to do is use a design. So use like an A4 background or a square background, and then use that as our blank canvas onto which we can do some photo editing. One of the other ways that you can do it is using your Canva dashboard. You can click upload here in the right hand side, and you can upload photos directly. So I'm not going to click through into this today, but basically it saves you having to make a design to carry out photo editing. But for the sake of creating something that's a little bit more workable, we are going to work with a design today. So going back into creating that blank sheet, we're going to use, I think, another Instagram post. It's that nice size. It's works really well for square images, but we're just going to be basically we just need a blank background to be working with today. So our first bit of image editing is going to be uploading the photo that we want to use. So in your heritage organization, you, particularly if you're in museums, you might take photos around the museum of objects, and you might want to make those object photos look a little bit fancier. I'm going to open up a new photo, perhaps like something you might take within your own museum. So I'll go to upload files, and I'm going to upload a picture of a vase, which is already in my Canva folder here, but I'm just doing this to demonstrate. And we're going to be editing this photograph today. So it's an object, it's within a case. I find when I first started using Canva, one of the most important things was creating object photographs for a CMS or for object files. If you use those within your organization, use a CMS, it can be really helpful to have very clear, uncluttered images of objects. And that is one of the things we're going to be looking at. So we're going to start with some very, very basic photo edits. So before we get into removing backgrounds and making it look all posh, we're going to start just with the basics. So we've got our photo in the middle. Up the top, we're going to click Edit Photo. And it's going to give us a whole selection of different types of edits. So you can see also before we launch into this that the crowns have gone to grey. That means that we can use them because we're in Canva Pro. We're going to start with adjusting. So clicking into the middle part here, adjust. These are some of the things that you might already be familiar with in terms of basic photo editing. So the nice thing about Canva is that it can separate the different grounds within the photo. So you don't have to edit the whole thing. You can edit the whole image as is selected here, or it will separate it out into foreground and background. So if you only wanted to edit the vase in the middle, you could select foreground. But if you wanted to, say, make the whole of the background much brighter, you can select background. We're going to work with whole image just to keep it nice and simple. But we're going to walk through some of these nice functionalities. So you'll be familiar with a lot of these: temperature, changing the blue to orange contrast, making it look warmer or cooler. Tint, I honestly don't know why you would use this. It makes it basically slightly purplier or slightly greener, but if that's one for you, go ahead. And then we're down into our much more useful features. So brightness, sliding scale, you slide it up, you slide it down, affecting brightness. Contrast, making the darks darker and the lights lighter. So obviously 100% contrast, that looks pretty hideous, but a little bit of contrast can just make it look a little bit sharper and a little bit more inviting. Highlights, this will grab the light parts of the photo. So in this example, you can see that there's light areas on this side of the vase. You've got areas of light that are reflecting on the glass, and it will intensify just those highlights. Same thing with shadows, it pulls out the shadows. If you up the number on shadows, it removes them. If you lower the number, it intensifies the shadows. And the same things with whites and blacks. It does the same thing pretty much as picking out highlights and shadows. Colour can be quite an interesting one to use. The vibrance is, well, it's the vibrance. So as you up it, you've got a really nice strong orange there. It looks quite nice, quite warm, but maybe a little bit unrealistic. And saturation, you can lower the saturation. That's a really nice way to make a black and white image as a really quick effect. It's just removing any color saturation. And then obviously you can use these things with each other. You can overlap the different tools. So if you had a black and white image, you take out all the saturation, but now it looks a bit wishy-washy. So we'll go into contrast and up the contrast. You can see how that affects the design on the vase, makes the center of it look a little bit more exciting. So you can use all of these effects in conjunction with one another. Color edits, so you can select the colors that are within the photo. That can be quite handy. And I would generally avoid the sharpness tool. It makes it look very, very, very crisp, but to a point where it starts to look a little bit weird. So I would be very reserved with using any of the bottom 3 texture tools, but it's always good to have a play around and see how you can affect the photo. Vignette is the kind of shadow from the outside of the photograph, so you can remove it, makes it look like it's nice and light, or make it darker, quite cinematic. And I'm going to hit reset there just to send everything back to 0. One of Canva's AI features, in fact, no, I'll come back to that. We'll save that for in a minute. So coming back to the really simple edits, you have got your picture in the middle here. You've got this circular arrow. As you might have guessed, you highlight that, clicking and holding, and you can use that to spin your image, to turn it around, to put it at a jaunty angle. And it gives you the number of degrees as well. So if you wanted it just very slightly off, you can see that's a 1 degree, 10 degree, whatever it might be. That can be quite useful to keep things looking nice and even across your design. The next one that we're going to look at is cropping your image. Nice and simple with Canva. So around the image, you've got circles on the corner. These are what we use to resize, as you've seen. And in the middle of the image, and this works the same with graphic elements as well. These are these sort of like oval shapes, these long oval shapes. And we grab those and that crops the image. So if we wanted to remove as much of the background as we wanted, we drag those nice aspects there, and we've got a pretty neat photo just through cropping. And then you can make it bigger again and you're left with this lovely cropped version of the vase. I'm just going to undo all of that cropping, bringing us back to the original photo. Flipping, that can be quite a nice one. Sometimes when you have a photo and it's on one side, so this is not a great example because it's centered right into the middle, but if that vase was, say, offset to the left and you're using this as part of the design and you think, actually, I really want my text to be right where that vase is, because that's how you read and it would look much nicer. I want to move the vase over to the other side without changing the image. So we can use flip, and flipping horizontally kind of just mirrors the image. So again, that's not working very well because it's the vase is centered. But ooh, that vanished. I'll show you a bit more what that looks like with the image as a whole. Flipping it mirrors it. It can be useful just to change the focus, change the aspect. And the same thing with flipping horizontal. Flipping vertically, it inverts it upside down. You can use this set of 3 lines to create borders around your image. So you've got a sliding scale here for border weight. So that is a 1 pixel size border. It's very thin. And as you drag it, it gets more and more enormous. That is one hell of a border. And you've got different border styles as well. So if you've got one like that, you could have a nice kind of dashed border, lots of dashes and dots, or clicking this dash icon here to make no border. And corner rounding, when you've got a square or a rectangular image such as this, it might be the case that you don't want it to look quite so sharp. So we'll go into our borders and have a little mess around with the sliding scale on corner rounding. Taking it all the way to 100 makes it very, very smooth, a nice kind of pill-shaped image. And it's just a really nice, easy way to get to that kind of editing. You've also got position. This is something that is more as your image relates to the entire design that it's sat on. Obviously here you've only got the option to move it to the top or to the bottom or the middle. But again, it can be quite nice because you know that it is going to be exactly at the top. If you have other elements on the page, you can arrange them in front of the elements or behind, and then left and right. Obviously we can't go left and right because we're right at the very edges. So that can be quite a nice way to just make sure that your positioning of an image is spot on. And the last one that we are going to look up here is transparency. So as very self-explanatory, sliding the transparency down makes the image, well, transparent. So just to give you an example of how that works, I'm going to bring in another image of another very nice vase. I'm going to go to position and I'm going to send it to the back. So this front image is going to go behind that image. And this helps us just to see how that transparency works. A nice thing with transparency, it can be really good to create a watermark on a document. It's quite often we need official looking paperwork, and the transparency feature there is really, really good for that. So now that's gone back to full opacity and you can no longer see the image behind. So I will delete that. Coming back into there, and that is our very basic photo editing. We're going to take a little look at filters just to give you an idea of its preset filters. These are a little bit like early Instagram. If anybody can cast their minds back to a few years ago, Instagram gave you these preset kind of preloaded color filters. If for some reason this is something that you use, say in your branding or in your particular museum's like online style, then you've got these all preset there for you. The nice thing about it is if you quite like, say, this lunar filter, but it looks a bit strong and a bit purpley, you can tone down the intensity of the filter. So these are all quite natural. Got a selection of the ones there that you can choose from. And then you've got all these different types of filters, ones that make it look warm, ones that make it look cool, a nice strong colour, very soft and aesthetic looking. We've even got vintage. That's quite nice, sort of makes it look like a Polaroid photo. This is also another quick way to go black and white, and you've got different types of black and white image in there. So this is basically just all of the saturation is removed and the contrast and vibrancy are kind of played around with at different levels. You've also got some very fun, colourful features at the bottom there. So feel free to have a play around with all of these different types of filter when you're in Canva. So within this edit photo element, filters fall under effects. You do have crop here, so we can have another little look. In fact, I'm just going to come out of that and make the photo back to normal. In fact, we'll go into adjust, or into effects. And if you want to remove your effect, you just come back to none at the top. That brings us back to the original image. The other one we'll take a look at is crop. So I showed you basic crop just by dragging in the sides. If you want to crop the image to a specific shape, it's super easy to crop it to a square, a 1-to-1 ratio. You can also rotate the image within that crop. So using this slide on the bottom here, quite nice. You can crop to a sort of portrait style screen and just dragging the corners there to expand it, moving it around freeform, nice and easy. Freeform crop, that's just a little bit like the crop we used earlier. You can basically just drag and adjust as you would like. And smart crop, that is an AI version of cropping, so it does what it thinks it wants you to do. Is that the right way of saying it? As with all AI, it's a little bit hit and miss, so just having a play around and having a little go with these things. So that is our most basic version of image editing on Canva. We're going to have a little go now at taking the background out. And background removing has traditionally been a really difficult, really labor-intensive, annoying thing to have to do with images. But as I mentioned, sometimes with object photos and for all different kinds of reasons, product imagery as well, if you've got a shop, sometimes you do just want to get rid of the background. In Photoshop, this was quite a highly skilled thing to be able to do. It took a lot of time, and I think you had to cut around the actual image no more. So using Canva's amazing AI background removing tool, we are going to be doing that. So selecting the image, getting that purple line around it, as you would expect. All you do, and this really does not take any time at all, is select background remover. Bear in mind, all of these features are a little bit hit and miss. And there you go, it has removed the background. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that we can see the image better. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's as you can see in the middle of the screen. In fact, I'm going to crop this so that I can make it really nice and clear for everybody. Bear with. As you can see, I have chosen this example of a vase because it does an excellent job at removing the background. But what it has done is left behind just a tiny little annoying fraction of background right there. And because Canva is so amazing, we can get rid of that extremely easily. So again, using background remover is a pro tool, and the tool that we're going to be using next is also pro. We're having a quick look at Magic Eraser. So select a Magic Eraser. You can use your scroll on your mouse to zoom right in. So finding that annoying little bit of background that it hadn't quite removed, we're going to zoom right into the image. I'm going to make the brush size a lot smaller so that we can be nice and accurate. And all I'm going to do is brush over that little smudge right there. And then you can see Canva is just loading. So it takes a minute and it has removed the smudge. So zooming out, exiting from Magic Eraser. And you can see we've tidied that up really nicely in a process that in Adobe Suite would have taken ages, has just taken several seconds. So hopefully everyone's as mind blown by that as I was when I first saw it, because it really does sharpen up images, make things look really clean and fresh. Looks like you've got like a studio photography ready for your image, which I think can be really handy, and hopefully will be handy for you as well. We'll go through just one more example of that, just because it's nice and clear. We've got another vase. They just work nicely. That's why I've chosen vases to use today. This is a nice image in itself. It's not got a cluttered background, but just to give you one more example, just to show that Canva doesn't only work with that one exact picture. We'll remove the background, and there you go, done. So one thing we might want to do when we've got this image on a plain background is to make it look like it actually is in a studio. So to take this one step further, we can add shadows. So I'll go back up to, we might as well use this vase as we're here. We go back into Edit Photo. And I'll talk through a few of these other features as well in a little while. And we're going to scroll down to Effects. So you've got loads of cool visual effects here, blurring, auto-focusing, and all the like there. And we're going to look at shadows. So shadows just can give it an image a little bit of grounding, make it look like it really was taken in a nice white light bright studio. So for example, the drop shadow, we'll pop it in, selecting drop shadow, looks okay, looks a little bit weird, certainly looks like it's floating. So we can manipulate the shadows to make them as effective as possible. So one of the first things to look at is the angle of the shadow. So this is the placement of the image in front of that shadow. I think it is quite nice, makes it look like the shadow is just behind. You can use the distance to move the object really close to the shadow or a lot further away. We'll have it somewhere in the middle. And then the blur amount. So the more you blur the shadow, it does make the image smaller, but all you've got to do is drag that back out. Blurring the shadow there, or the intensity of the shadow. So this just lowers the sort of the black elements within the shadow. So lowering the intensity, a little bit of a blur, and then resizing that image back up to where we wanted it. So just a little bit bigger. And you've got a pretty fancy looking, slightly more realistic, shadowed version of your image. So that is basic background removing in Canva. Before I show you about exporting these, we'll just take another look at some of these fabulous AI tools. Magic Expand makes your photo fit the size of the design that you're on. So it will use, so if you've got a rectangular image and you want it to spread, it will use AI to create more of that image and extend it beyond. It's okay. Sometimes it works really well, especially if the backgrounds are quite plain. Magic Edit is amazing. Feel free to have a play around with these. We haven't got time to go into them in depth, but basically, as you can see from the example on the little icon there, you can basically type in change from flowers to a rose, and it will use AI to change it. Very, very dodgy. If you've got people in the photo, it often gives people extra legs and heads and all sorts, but it can be quite fun. But sometimes it does work really well, and it can be really useful, particularly for changing small details of a photo. And Magic Grab highlights images, or for example, on this vase, highlights images within the photo and draws them out so that you can use them elsewhere. Grab Text, again, finds text within photos that you can grab, remove, change, and replace. So all really cool, really useful, worth having a go with. But Background Remover is one of the most consistently reliable features. It's been in Canva for a couple of years, so it's one of their older AI assisted features, and they have really refined it to get it working really well. Some of the other ones are new. It can be a good laugh if you have a go with them, but yeah, just have a mess around and play about with editing photos on Canva Pro. So coming back to our lovely vase, we've got two ways of exporting this image. So I'll give it a quick title. We'll call it Vase 1. And we're going to use, we're going to be downloading this image to our desktop so that we can maybe use it in our CMS or upload it to social media or the website or whatever we might want to use. So as before, we'll go to share. We're going to go straight to download. And for this example, you've got two options. So you can see here, we have the option here to create a transparent background. We're going to select transparent background. And then when you download it, we need to keep it as a PNG. If you want the background to be removed, you keep it as a PNG. You hit download, and then I will show you what that does. I've already got it uploaded, so I won't bore you with that, but I'm going to make a coloured background. And here is our transparent PNG vase. So it hasn't got a background. Really, really nice. usable graphic there. Otherwise, we go back into share, hit download, and again, you can keep it as a PNG or you can change it to a JPEG. If you just hit download as an ordinary image, then what happens is we have our nice black square here. It will keep the white background. So that again can be quite useful depending on the application of that media. I have got a couple of minutes before we move on to brand kits. If anybody has got any really quick questions about photo editing, background removing.
Yes,
so
a couple of questions in the chat, Freya. Helen's asking if the AI erases too much and cuts out a bit of the object, can that be easily fixed?
Yes, great question. So you have the magic eraser. You've got a toggle within magic eraser, which is to erase, and then you can toggle it on to replace. So you can, if it's erased too much, you can go back in and draw over the bit that you wanted it to keep. It's really, really easy. But yes, occasionally it does erase more than you want it to, but you can go back and you can keep toing and froing with the tool until you get it spot on. So that's a really good question.
And another good one from Nick, if there are two vases together, will it select both objects or decide itself which one?
Very good question. So because it is just removing the background, it will generally keep both vases. I wonder if I've got an example I can show you with.
It's very powerful, Freya.
Excellent. Hold on one moment. I will show you that as a quick example because it's a really good question. And share my screen again. So got our plain design. I'll pop in those vases there. Actually, that's a terrible example because it's not actually got a background. Let's choose a different one. Let's go for this vase. And we'll see what happens when we remove the background. So in theory, what you want that to do is keep all of the vases there, keep all of the flowers, and just get rid of the kind of textured background. That's what I'm hoping it's going to do for you, Nick. And it does. So that did that nice and quickly, kept everything there. And then you can, again, use Magic Eraser, and I might as well show you how to replace things. So using Magic Eraser, I would like to get rid of this entire, in fact, the entire vase. So we'll just scrub that out. Hopefully that just removes it. Left a little bit there. But actually, I've just decided that I want to replace some of that magic erasing. And I don't know where that option has gone. So apologies to whoever just asked me if you can replace things. I was absolutely sure that you could. And I thought you had two different versions of that brush. So let me just, oh, maybe it's background remover where you can do it.
Go back.
There we go. We've got, yeah, so that hopefully answers your question there, Nick. And in background remover, you've got erase and restore. So if you wanted to restore a little bit of the pot that we just took away. Okay, it's not responding. Maybe it's a little bit much for the capabilities of sharing and doing that at the same time. But generally speaking, you can get your background back as well. So that was a very hit and miss example. Apologies. And if we're all good, were there any other questions there before we move on to brand kits? Where everyone's just so keen for brand kits, we'll just jump into that. Brilliant. Okay, so again, before we start, brand kits are a pro feature. I think Nicola has shared the link to be applying for Canva for free to get that access. So let me just share the screen. And we're back into Canva. So brand kits, down the left-hand side, you can see brand. We'll click into there. And we've got our brand kit. So you open up brand kit, and this is basically a little dashboard where you can upload everything to do with your organization's brand identity. So logos, color palette. It does something very clever that I'll show you in a moment. Fonts that your brand uses, and different fonts for different parts of text. Brand voice, that's one of Canva's fun AI features you can use or leave. Photos that you use all the time and graphics that you use all the time. Same with icons. As any kind of image file, you can just drag those and drop those. So why is a brand kit useful? So one of the amazing things about having a brand kit is that sometimes when you're creating digital media or social media, you've got different people in the organizations using different styles of the logo, a fuzzy version of the logo, an old version of the logo. It makes sure that everybody's using the same thing. Basically, it's all in one place. Helps basically to make sure that it's consistent and that your brand identity is consistent. And it also makes it really quick and easy to update templates according to your brand colors, fonts, logos, etc. So without further ado, I've made a little pretend museum brand and I'm going to upload that to my brand kit. So dragging or dropping or going into your desktop to upload, I'm going to drop in my logo, which was made on Canva, may I add. And it's just one of Canva's pre-made logos for the purposes of this. And now the really fun thing that it does is Canva pulls out all of the colors from the logo and creates you a color palette. You can say keep or remove, but if you think, actually, they are my brand colors, that's really helpful, we'll just click keep rather. And you can also add colors into there. So if you think, I do use those brand colors, but I also use a hot pink and a dark blue every now and again, you just add those in, selecting them, and then you get access to those colors, as we will see in a moment. So color palette, that's the same thing. It's just duplicated it. So you can have another color palette if you would like. In terms of your fonts, we are going to choose a heading for our titles. We want League Spartan for our titles and the same for our subtitles. And you can fill all of these in. I'm just going to go down to body font there and select Poppins, as I've pre-decided that this is my museum brand. Brand voice, like I mentioned, that's an AI thing. You can have a mess around with that, but it just basically generates text based on the sound of your existing content. So it sort of tries to be in keeping and helps you with content creation. Very clever, but a little bit lengthy to go into today. We're going to add in some photos. So these are a couple of images that in my pretend museum I use all the time. So rather than having to source them individually, we'll have them all in one place. And a few graphics as well. So these are pulled out from my logo and I use them accordingly for different things. So for now, that is all we're going to add into our brand kit. You can add as much or as little as you like. But now the interesting thing is actually applying your brand kit. So I'm going to create a design. And you might remember from the very beginning, we looked at a presentation. So we're going to create some, I hope sometimes people use presentations. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But it's just a nice way as an example to create a three slide deck using your brand kit. So we've opened up a blank presentation. This is what it shows you. Hopefully it looks a little bit like PowerPoint. It's very user friendly. As usual, we've got all of these lovely pre-made, pre-designed templates, but we're going to pick this nice pink one. I'm going to use the front slide there. We're going to use this slide with an image, and we're going to use a slide with a graph. So as you just saw from the brand information I uploaded to the brand kit, this presentation bears absolutely no resemblance to my museum brand. So what we're going to do is head into brand on the left-hand side of the screen. And as you can see, all of those things we uploaded on the dashboard have come through. So they're all ready to use, ready to click. And I'm going to show you just a bit how customizable this is and how easy it is to do. So this light pink, I go up here to select our background color. And immediately I'm offered a selection of colors from the brand kit, which is really, really helpful and really quick. So I'm going to click that nice yellow. And rather than going for this sort of salmony color, that's the background, I'm going to pick green. Looks a bit Eastery, so we'll go with that. I like it. Obviously, within templates, all of the text is customizable. So let's make this into something that we might use. Something we're all far too familiar with. Let's call it a funding application. So we're making a nice presentation here for funding applications. You can move the text, you can keep it where it is. But again, that is not our brand font. So we'll click in, go in to select our fonts. And there they are. Scrolling down to brand kit, we've got, I'll select it for both whilst I'm in and then make it look a little bit nicer. So spreading that box so everything falls onto one line. Moving it so that it sits there quite nicely, quite like that, a bit off center. And if you wanted to change both of these text boxes at the same time, change their size, a nice little tip is to select one of them, hold down Shift on a Windows. It might be different on a Mac. I'm afraid I don't know Mac. So hold down Shift and then select the other one as well. And that selects both and you can change them together. And that works for everything. So it works for elements, for photos, whatever you might be using, you can select everything like that. You can also just drag and select them both. But if you want to be avoiding stuff, sometimes it's easier to shift and click. So this little area down here, bit of text, I'm actually going to replace that with my lovely museum logo. So hit delete on that. And within the brand kit, I can immediately access my logo. Nice and easy. That's dropped it somewhere awkward. Okay, and we'll drag that down, popping that in this nice box, making sure it's in the middle. There we go. There's the middle. And that looks okay, but I think this box here we can see is a kind of transparent footer, which isn't really working for me. I would like that just to be white. So as we saw earlier with our image editing, it works the same for boxes and for shapes. So we head up to transparency. That's at an 84% and we'll bring it up to 100 so that it's a nice solid box. And there we have our front page of our presentation in line with all of our branding kit down the side. So we're going to just do that across the 3 slides just to show you how easy it is to keep bringing these colors and this style all the way through. So the first thing I'm going to do with this page is delete that picture of Big Ben because we don't need that there. And I'm going to delete these kind of decorative squiggles as well because my brand identity is very clean and chic and we don't want any of these little dots. So hitting delete on all of those, getting it right back to basics. Again, we're going to change the background colors using brand kit colors. So purple and red, that classic combination. Then I'm going to select both of those titles by holding Shift and go back into fonts to choose my brand kit font again. I would also like them to be in capitals. And actually, let's call it a bit of an intro to the brand, to my pretend museum. You've got the font text underneath, but we want that to be in our brand kit as well. It should be body text. And it isn't in there. Very strange. Well, luckily it's there. So that's our brand kit there. And you will have noticed that, might have noticed there, that change all come up. That can be quite handy. We're going to bring in one of our lovely edited photos from earlier as well. So maybe that transparent PNG where we remove the background. That's going to look really cool. And you can see this is a version of that picture where I didn't remove that annoying little blip in the middle, but you get the idea. So we're using our own photos on our presentation as well, all stored within uploads just on the side. And for the final slide, we've got this kind of, they've overlaid a sort of squiggly image as the background. I'm going to select that and hit delete. I'm going to select the background and choose one more of my nice colors. We'll go with green. again, updating the fonts to match our brand identity. I'm going to shrink that down. Let's make it say something along those lines. Updating our body text as well. And we're going to have a little look at these graphs. These are really cool Canva element that we haven't had an opportunity to look at yet. You will find graphs within elements. I think we saw it just a little bit earlier. And we're going to customize this graph as well to fit our data. So when you click into the graph, you're given the different table of data. Again, this is all customizable. So whatever you want the, I've forgotten the real graphy words, axis, Y and X axes. Don't test me on that, no idea. Whatever you want those to be, you can update them and edit them. But more importantly, you can change the colors. So going up here to our different shades of blue, we'll bring in our branding colors. So half yellow, and let's go half purple. So it's nice and on brand. And even within data settings, yeah, so you can change all of the data of that graph to be meaningful. And they have totally loads and loads of different types of graphs as well. Line charts, bar charts, pie charts, all of the different data. So again, have a play around with those, see how they look. They're really responsive. And when you load them up within presentations, they kind of self-animated to look very cool as well. So hopefully that has given everybody a bit of an insight into using brand kits. The last thing I will go over just before we go to questions is if you're using Canva, you might have noticed this little arrow here in the middle of the screen. If you just want to focus on your screen, you just hide the edge and it makes it nice and clean. You've got your slides along the bottom, or your design will be in the middle, and if you want it back, just clicking on any of the elements down the side to reopen it. And this works the same as the presentation that I showed you earlier, much like PowerPoint, clicking present and jumping in, you get that nice functionality there with a presentation. So I will X that and I will stop sharing the screen for a moment. And yeah, happy to come to any questions now. We've got 15 minutes or so. I'm happy to do more examples or to go through anything else if my capabilities extend that far. And if anyone's got any questions, that would be great, because I'm really sick of the sound of my own voice.
Thank you, Freya. Gosh, we covered an awful lot there. So yeah, this is your opportunity to ask anything that you would like help with just now. Lucy's put a question in the chat. Can you export a presentation to PowerPoint format?
That is an excellent question. Generally speaking, no. So Canva presentations are online, but they're actually much easier file types to use than presentations. So I will show you, again, I will just jump in to our presentation. So you've got the present function, obviously, like PowerPoint, but if you do want to share this, you've got lots of different ways to do so. So with anything in Canva, not just presentations, you can pop in somebody's email address and it will share a view only link with somebody. So anybody can have the direct link to your design or to your presentation. You can just update the permissions there as you would do with Google Docs or anything like that. You can download your PowerPoint, and these are the different options. Oh, and look, you can. So it does even more than, it really does do so many things. I can't keep on top of all of the functionalities, but you can download it to a PPTX PowerPoint file, which is great. Or you can download it as a video, as a PDF, or all these different types. So yeah, they're really versatile, but a really nice way to share PowerPoints is to share them as a link. You also have this public link view. It's a really, really neat link, so that when somebody opens it up, maybe from an email, it just brings up the whole screen and looks really professional. Yes, that's, hopefully that answered your question. And I learned something answering that question as well. Always good.
Great, thank you, Lucy. Any other questions? found it really useful to learn about the brand kit, which is something I've been meaning to do for a while, but it does really make a difference. I can kind of keep it in style, and yeah.
It can be one of those things that you think, oh, I can't be bothered to sit down and actually put everything in and put all your colours in and everything like that. But once you've done it, you've got access to it, and everybody in your organisation who uses Canva has access to it, and it just immediately makes things easy and consistent. So yeah, really recommend going through with that if you're looking to do that.
It's quite handy for having like a template for your social media posts and things, and creating any kind of assets that then you can reuse across the different platforms.
Yeah, and
Those
that
last 2
scheduling.
sessions, sorry,
Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say those last 2 half-hour sessions were absolutely fantastic, and they've certainly opened my eyes, Freya, so thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm glad you found it informative. It's a lot of info, but if anybody is keen to go into any more depth or has any questions, please do just drop me an email, and I'm always happy to help out.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Lucy.
I just want to say, I mean, it was brilliant. Yeah, my brain's a bit full now. And I know you're recording it, so can we have the recording so we can fast forward to the bit that we forgot?
Yes, absolutely. Gemma and the XpoNorth team will get the recording out to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, that's a good. It's a hopefully not too overwhelming amount of information, but yeah, scrolling back through the recording will be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's about just having a bit of a play and messing around, seeing what works with you. And yeah, it looks like quite fun to just, if you've ever got a wee spare half an hour to just go and mess around with.
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to learn is certainly by doing, as you can watch all the Canva how-tos that the world has to offer, but unless you actually go and have a go, it all starts making sense, and it is very user-friendly. Like I say, you can't break it. You just have a mess around. Definitely have a mess around with the AI functions as well. They can be really funny.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Freya. That was hugely informative. And yeah, we'll share the recording so that people can dip in and out once you've had a little play, maybe go back and pick up on some of those tips as well. But I'll bring in Gemma now just to wrap everything up. Thank you, everybody.
Great, Nicola, thank you so much. And thank you, Freya. That was absolutely fantastic. That was really, really good. And thank you for giving up your time to share all that valuable information. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. There were so many of you, and I hope that you all enjoyed it and you all found it a really good use of your time, because I know that time is precious with everybody. So thank you so much for that. Please do visit our website, www.XpoNorth.co.uk, where you can look at our event section and sign up to our newsletter to be kept up to date with future events and news. Also on the website, we have our video archive with lots of extremely interesting content, as well as our inquiry form for specialist sector support. Please make sure to connect with us on Facebook, X, also known as Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Today, yes, was recorded, and once the recording is available, we will make sure that it's out to everybody, but it will be up on our website as well. So we'll have that available as soon as we can. Thank you once again for joining us. Thank you so much, everybody. Lovely to see you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.